Hei rakkaat laatuelokuvien ystävät, tervetuloa Totuus elokuvasta vlogin pariin. Täällä Night Visionseilla käytiin just katsomassa Mikon kanssa, hei vaan Mikko, niin Jack Sholderin ohjaama Alone in the Dark, ja oliko tää vuodelta 80?
82.
82, okei. Mähän näin tämän leffan ensimmäistä kertaa, ja tää on sulle jotenkin iso ja tärkeä teos ilmeisesti.
No VHS-ajalta joo, siis tuttuu, että Magnum-videon julkaisu, leikattu versio kylläkin, mutta niin sieltä jäänyt silleen mieleen, että elokuvassahan on, vaikka aika rytmitön tekele onkin, mutta niin kuin useita hienoja jaksoja, missä näyttelijät irrottelee ihan täysillä, etenkin nämä psykopaattipuolta kautta mielipuolipuolta näyttelevät Martin Landau ja Jack Palance nimenomaan niin kuin vetävät ihan kierroksilla koko leffan läpi, niin tässä on niin semmoisia, voisi sanoa kyllä itselleni unohtumattomia kohtauksia, mutta tämä oli myös mulle oikeastaan ensimmäinen kerta, kun mä näin leikkaamattoman version, että en ole nähnyt DVDtä enkä mitään, että se on vaan se VHS-muistikuva mikä on. Elokuva ei sinänsä pettänyt, mutta tiettyä rytmittömyyttä siinä on, mutta silti se, niin kuin sanoin, niin se ylimääräiset kierrokset vievät sen maaliin todella kunniakkaasti ja etenkin loppukohtaus varmasti löytyy jostakin YouTuben syövereistä, niin sitten tämäkin kohtaus irrallisena niin toimii erittäin hyvin.
Joo, eli kyseessähän on siis kauhuelokuva, tämmönen home invasion leffa, jossa ideana on se, että on tohtori, joka on jossain mielisairaalassa, ja sitten niin siellä mielisairaalassa on 3 hullua, tai itse asiassa 2 niistä on niin kuin varsinaisesti hullua, jotka luulee, että se on tappanut sen edellisen tohtorin. Ja ne 2 muuta musta tuntuu, että ne vaan niin kuin lähti mukaan, koska miksei. Anyway, hullut luulevat, että tämä uusi tohtori, joka pyörii nyt siellä, on tappanut sen vanhan tohtorin, jonka takia ne päättää tappaa tämän uuden tohtorin, ja kuin Jumalan ihmeestä koko kaupunki pimeenee, tulee sähkökatkos, ja sitten nämä hullut pääsee tai pakenee mielisairaalasta ja tunkeutuu tämän tohtorin kotiin, jossa on hänen perheensä ja näin. Ja sitten perus home invasion meininkiä.
Mutta mustaa huumoria on niin kuin huomattavasti enemmän kuin mitä on niin kuin ehkä moderneissa vedoissa, vaikka joku purge tai muut vastaavat, sanon suomalaisittain purge. Niin
purge, joo, tai sitten tämä siis Sam Pekin pahin olkikoirat, niin kuin tämmöiseen vanhaankin tai vanhempaan verrattuna, niin joo. Tässä on enemmän huumoria, joo.
Joo, ja kyllä tämä niin löytää musta jokaista hahmosta jotain nimenomaan, että se on Jack Sholderilla ylipäänsäkin niin kuin hänen elokuvissaan, niin Elm Street 2, Hidden, Renegades vaikkapa, niin siellä niin kuin hahmoja vedetään aika silleen överikierroksille, käytän aina mielelläni tätä termiä, mutta niin ihan samalla lailla tässäkin, että jokaisella hahmolla oli aika erilaisia hahmoja leffassa läpi, ja osa oli selkeästi unohdettavia ja osa kannatti sitä tarinaa, mutta koko ajan niissä on jotain semmoisia, että on niin kuin selkeästi haettu pienillä nyansseilla sitä semmoiseksi niin kuin kioskikirjallisuus kautta sarjakuvatyyliseksi, ja se todella toimii siis tässä tosi hyvin. Et silloin kun se home invasion juttu ei kanna, niin tämä musta huumori kantaa sen läpi ja näyttelysuoritukset.
Joo, siis tässä niin tosiaan ensimmäistä kertaa näin, ja mä itse asiassa odotin hieman erilaista elokuvaa ja yllätyin. En sano, että mä oon nyt positiivisesti silleen wuhuu, mutta siis mä en ole myöskään silleen, että voi helvetti vaan. Eli periaatteessa on positiivinen yllätys siinä mielessä, että niin tää vaan vaatii vähän sulattelua. Mutta joo, siis etenkin just tää, että Jack Palance ja Martin Landau, jotka vetää niin överiksi, etenkin Landau vetää niinku sitä hahmoa silleen niinku. Ja puhumattakaan nyt vaikka Donald Pleasenceista, joka myös, tosin joka tekee sen just nimenomaan, koska se roolihan on niin typerä, tai se hahmo on niin typerä, niin että kaikki nämä niinku vanhat tekijät vetää niinku överiksi ja vaikuttaa siltä, että ne ei ota tosissaan tätä elokuvaa, vaan hassuttelee, niin se tekee tähän jotenkin tosi omituisen tunnelman. Samaan aikaan niin kuin koomisen, mutta jotenkin semmoisen kieroutuneen tai semmoisen.
Ehkä se näin, mulla on kanssa tosi pitkä aika sinänsä, kun on katsonut viimeksi. Ehkä se oli vähän niin kuin vaikea tooni, mutta kyllä se on tosi ainutlaatuinen ja ihan aidosti kyllä katsomisen arvoinen. Ja suosittelen ihan vilpittömästi kaikille, että tämän kovempaa kyllä home invasion psykopaattikuvastoa ei kyllä löydy mistään. Että jos nimenomaan semmoiset väljähtäneet purgen jatko-osat ei kiinnosta, niin Alone in the Dark.
Joo, itse asiassa se yksi asia, mikä ehkä mua vähän niin kuin tässä leffassa sille yllätti negatiivisessa mielessä, oli se, että loppujen lopuksi nämä tapot ei ollut ihan hirveän graafisia. Mä odotin tästä niin kuin paljon enemmän, tiedätkö, siis graafisempaa. Että esimerkiksi tämä yksi musta mies, joka ammutaan siihen puuhun, mikä itse asiassa oli aika hauskasti pyöri siinä puussa ja verta roisku, joka oli itse asiassa hyvin tällaista, tuli italialaiset elokuvat mieleen, se oli hyvin semmoista maalimaista, punaista se veri. Ja siis jotenkin, mä toivoin, että olisi ollut raaempi elokuva. Siis niinku, tää olisi ehkä vähän kaivannut, tiedätkö, Tom Savinia tähän näin, mikä sitten, no, tämän arvostelun jälkeen tai perässä tulee sitten toi Jack Sholderin Q&A tuolta Night Visionsista, niin hän kertoi sitten, että tähän tosiaan Tom Savini on tehnytkin jotain, mutta olisi kaivannut Tom Savinin otetta tää leffa mun mielestä.
No ehkä vähän, mutta sinänsä sanotaan näin, että tuolla veri kautta lätistelypuolella, niin siinä on kuitenkin sillä tavalla, että siinä rakenteellisesti siihen niin kuin viitataan musta hyvin ja tuodaan sitä, että siinä on sitä ilkeämielistä tunnelmaakin mukana. Mutta sen jälkeen ohjaaja kyllä on selkeästi halunnut muita teemoja niin kuin kannatella siinä niin kuin nimenomaan tässä Q&A-osiossa varmaan, että kuka lopun perin onkaan hullu vai olemmeko me kaikki hieman hulluja tai muuta, niin sehän siinä sitten valtaa aika paljon sitä niin kuin ruutuaikaa, mutta täytyy sanoa, että ehkä se varmaan olisi niin kuin enemmän tunnettu elokuva, jos se olisi nimenomaan tällaista splatterherkkua sitten enemmän siellä mukana. Mutta ei se kyllä minua häirinyt millään lailla. Vaikka yleensä splatter-elokuvista pidän.
No, mites Mikko, oliko edelleen yhtä hyvä kuin muistit?
Kyllä mä sanon, että se meni vieläkin paremmille linjoille ja nimenomaan oikeastaan tämän Q&A-osion kautta, ohjaajan tarinoinnin kautta, niin sieltä sitten lopun perin löytyy aika paljon, mitä siinä on haettu. Ja tämähän on luvassa nyt sitten näiden tarpeettomien höpinöiden jälkeen.
Kyllä, kiitos Mikko.
Hyvä. No.
Ja teille, katsokaa Alone in the Dark ja katsokaa nyt alkava Jack Sholderin Q&A. Kiitos Night Visionsille tästä mahdollisuudesta. Ensi kertaan.
So actually, I had written for a band called I called them Nicky Nothing and the Hives, which was just some kind of a punk band. So they said, oh well, there's this band that we think might be good for the film, and they're called the Sick Fucks. So I said, well, that sounds really great. Just have them come in. And they came in. I said, they're hired. You got the job.
You always have to have a right title for everything, for a band or for a film. It's going to sell better. You mentioned before we started the screening that this is inspired by real events, but it's also something that you've written yourself. Can you tell us something about how the script came to be?
Well, my original idea was that there are these criminal psychopaths who are in a mental hospital, and all the security is electronic because of the desires of the head of the institution, and then it takes place in New York City, and they escape and they're rounded up by the mafia because they're a problem for the mafia, and during the blackout. But New Line said, well, we can't do it in New York City. It costs too much money, and they would have had problems with the unions and all that. So they wanted, and so I wrote the script. And I had never really done a horror film, and it wasn't a genre that I really had a great feeling for. And so they were unable to raise the money, and so so I got an offer to cut a film called The Burning, which was the first film that the Weinstein brothers did, Harvey Weinstein, very highly original idea. There's a summer camp, and they're campers, and there's a murderer out there who kills the campers. So no one had ever thought of that idea before. and then he used hedge clippers. So that was about the only thing that was vaguely original about the film. But so I edited the film, and so I learned how to create suspense and how to create scares and things like that. One of the things that I learned is that if you can set up a really good situation that's frightening, you can milk that for a very long time, which is basically. Alfred Hitchcock talked about the difference between suspense and surprise. So I don't know, some of you may have heard of this, but he said surprise is two people are having lunch and a bomb explodes under the table. Suspense, someone puts a bomb under the table, then two people sit down to have lunch. So basically, those are the two dynamics that you're working with most storytelling. Whether it's a bomb under the table, or whether the boy is going to kiss the girl or ask the girl to marry him, or whatever. It's always suspense and surprise. And in one, with surprise, you're exactly with the characters. And with suspense, you know more than the characters. In order to have suspense, you must be informed. So one of the scenes so after I did the film, I said, I have to go back and rewrite the script and make it scarier. And so the whole scene on the bed with the girl, that was something that I added. And so when I edited it, New Line said, "Why doesn't she jump off the bed? This is ridiculous. She'd jump off the bed right away." And I said, "Well, the reason that she doesn't jump off the bed is then you wouldn't have a scene." And they said, "Well, she's on the bed for too long." And I said, "No, you're wrong. You can keep her on the bed as long as you can possibly keep her on the bed." And they kept wanting me to cut it shorter. And I said, "No, this is like, when you have somebody in that situation, it's like gold." And so, of course, once we screened the film, they saw that it was very effective. But I mean, those were some of the things that I was learning about how to make these kinds of films. I also added the scene where the sister goes wandering and then the zombie jumps up, and that was kind of an interesting story. I don't know whether you know about what happened there, but. I had done another film, which was the last film that I did before this one was called The Garden Party. It's totally different. It's about a young girl coming of age at the end of World War II and learning about the meaning of life and death. And very much the kind of film that I thought I was going to be making. And I had this guy who was a makeup guy, and I probably should have figured out that he wasn't great because he had given the women in the film permanence, and their hair kind of went like that, and then he had to redo it. But I really liked this guy. He was very funny, and so he said that he could not only do the makeup but also special effects makeup, and so one of the things was he was supposed to create a zombie for that moment, that the zombie was going to jump up, the figment of her imagination, and so we kept saying to him, where's the zombie? Can we see the zombie? He said, I'm working on it. Well, he was an alcoholic, and he never did it. So like 2 days before we were supposed to shoot the scene, we said, okay, where's the head for the zombie? And he didn't have it. So we fired him, and on the burning, the guy who was the special effects guy was Tom Savini, who probably a lot of you know is the guy that worked on
Romero's
George Romero's films. He was George
Amongst
Romero's guy. And so we called him up, and he flew in the morning that we were shooting the scene, and he just went to the supermarket, and he bought a bunch of stuff. He bought like some dishwashing detergent, and he bought Rice Krispies, those little puffy rice things, and he bought a bunch of things. And he just took an extra, and he made him up so he looked absolutely horrible. And that was the zombie that jumped up. I mean, it was just stuff that he literally bought at the supermarket. So.
The scene in the bed that you were talking earlier, there's been references that it's a variation of Jaws attacking. I remember reading that in a review. Did you have Jaws in mind or just Hitchcock?
Well, I had just kind of had when I was a kid. I remember seeing something on television where there was this alien. It basically looked like something between a vacuum cleaner and a jelly mold, and it kind of moved around, and it would like go under people's bed. And so I was terrified that there was something under my bed, and that if I let my hand or my foot hang off the bed, that something was going to grab it. So I thought, I have to get it. Like, what was something that I was afraid of that I could get in touch with that maybe other people might be afraid of. So I had this idea. Well, what if there's something under the bed that could get you? And that's where the idea came from.
The concept of slasher already was when you started to make this. You referred to Burning, and Burning isn't the first film in the ratio, so there was a pattern alongside slasher, and this is sold as a slasher. If you look at the poster, you have the slasher feeling, but then again, this isn't a slasher film. How did you feel about the whole idea of doing something that might be taken as a slasher, but your mind was definitely somewhere else?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the price of the ticket to make my first feature. It was a genre. I didn't do pure horror because there's nothing supernatural that happens, and my mind didn't quite work that way, and I was more interested in really in reality, and in how society functions and all of those kinds of things. So I mean, honestly, the idea of a slasher film doesn't really thrill me, but I got to make the film that I wanted, and whoever sees the film can decide what it is. I mean, it's actually it's appeared in a few books about slasher films of the '80s, and it is what it is. But I'm happy with the film.
Still, it's much more. There's family in the center. There is violence, but it's not kind. There's three characters. There's a lot of dark scenes, but then again, there's a lot of stuff happening in light as well. It's variation of a lot of things.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of dark humor in it. I mean, it's it's probably
Definitely.
the only home invasion film where someone in the house actually takes a tranquilizer, which seems to make sense, so.
When you started to work for New Line Cinema, they weren't distributing yet. They were bringing films into the US. Can you tell us something about the early stages of New Line Cinema?
Well, when I first met them, they were just a very small company. It was Bob Shea who had started the company. He actually wanted to be a film director, but he decided, because he had a law degree, and he actually studied copyright law in Sweden for a year with a Fulbright scholarship, that he never actually practiced law. He started the film company, and he had 3 people that worked for him, and it was a very, very low rent operation. He did. His wife did all of the advertising. She would sort of make up posters and advertisements, and
Swedish wife.
yeah, Swedish wife, and they their main business was distributing films to universities, because they started, I guess, probably 1968, something 67, 68, and at that time there weren't. Aside from like NYU and USC and UCLA, film was not taught in university. There was no film production that was taught. There was no film studies that was taught. It just didn't exist. I mean, when I went to university, there was none of that. I was an English major. I was majored in English literature, which turned out to be a very good thing, because I ended up reading every single play that William Shakespeare wrote, and many other people, and I learned a lot about drama and how to tell a story, and so on and so forth. And honestly, for those of you who may be aspiring to be filmmakers, the more you know about stuff that's not film, the better filmmaker you will be. So, like most things in life. so they started like that, and they were always a small company, but Bob always had a very interesting taste, and he always liked oddball things. So he was the first person to distribute a John Waters film. He was Pink Flamingos. I mean, he and I became good friends. I met him because I was hoping he would distribute a short film that I did. He said he wasn't interested, but he said, "Do you know anybody who can edit a trailer for me?" And I said, "Yeah, me." And you know, I'd never edited a trailer, but he said, "Okay." And so we locked ourselves into an editing room over a weekend when the editors were not there, you know, because it was cheap. And we basically stayed in for about 48 hours and came out like early Monday morning, and we ended up becoming really good friends. And so he sort of adopted me, and I was like his younger brother. But I guess he was. I've always wondered why he was attracted to me, but I guess because, you know, I was a little bit of an oddball myself, and but he also would, you know, like to run things by me. So, you know, one day he said, "Jack, you really got to see this film. It's called Pink Flamingos. You're not going to believe it." And he, you know, screened it for me, and he distributed that. He distributed the first Werner Herzog film, and he was very sort of he had very interesting taste, and you know, they were always on the verge of going out of business, and then a film would come along and save them. You know, whether it was Sympathy for the Devil, which was, you know, a Jean-Luc Godard film about the Rolling Stones, a documentary that he didn't like. He didn't like the film, and I said, "Bob, it's the Rolling Stones and it's Jean-Luc Godard," when, you know, Jean-Luc Godard was you know, a big name. And I said, "You know, I'll cut the trailer for free, but pick up this film." And then it made money, kept the company alive. And then there was a number of other films, you know, until finally, you know, they hit the jackpot with Elm Street.
But before hitting the jackpot, this was a thing for them.
This was the first film that they produced completely on their own.
And you made money out of it. I understand, not that much maybe, but still it's
helped
the company.
Yeah,
before
it made its money back. I mean, it made them some money. It didn't really have much of an audience, and I actually went back and looked at the reviews, and I actually got quite good reviews. I mean, there were a couple of bad ones. I mean, there was one where they said I should be boiled in oil. I actually wrote back to the newspaper and I said, "If you want to boil me in oil, that's okay, as long as it's a good olive oil and you throw in some garlic."
Did you get a reply to that? Questions from the audience? Please raise your hand. Mikko.
How did you get Jack plans?
Yes.
Well, actually, I mean, for my first movie, I had just this incredible cast. I mean, these were three great actors, you know, and I thought that Donald Pleasence was one of the great actors in the world. I mean, I loved him in Cul-de-sac, and there's so many other movies that he did that were great. So he was the first one. The producer said, "How would you like to have Donald Pleasence play Dr. Bane?" And I said, "Fantastic, that would be great." And so, you know, basically Donald was, you know, he's a working actor. Basically, you know, he had a certain fee. If you paid him his fee, he'd show up and he'd do his work, and then he would leave, you know, and that was it. Palance, you know, then, I don't know, a few weeks later, the producer said, "How would you like to have Jack Palance, you know, as Hawk?" And I said, great, can we get him?" He said, "Yeah." And, you know, it was at a low point in his career. He wasn't really doing much. I mean, he was doing a lot of really cheap movies, and movies in Italy, and, you know, a lot of these, you know, very low budget movies. And actually what happened was, we made the deal with him, I think, like, you know, 2 months before we were shooting. And then about 2 or 3 weeks before we were going to start to shoot the film, his agent called up and said, "Jack got another offer to be in a TV series, and it's going to shoot in Italy. And so he can't do your film." And so New Line said, "Well, we have a contract, and if he tries to break the contract, we'll sue him." So so he had to come and be in the movie, and he was not happy to be in the movie. And also, the producer had assured him that there would be no night shooting in Alone in the Dark. Donald worked on day 2, and then on day 3, I had to work with Palance and Bob Shea, who can be a little naughty, said to me at the end of the second day, and I was feeling really good because, you know, I had been able to direct Donald. You know, I would give him, I'd say, hey Donald, can we do it again, and would you mind doing this? And he actually did it, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. You know, Donald Pleasance is actually listening to what I'm saying, and I thought this is pretty good. And then Bob said, I met Jack Palance today. We had lunch. He's really angry to be in the film, and he's really mean. And we were walking down the street, and somebody said, are you Jack Palance? And I thought he was going to punch the guy. And I immediately had a panic attack. And I had to have dinner with Martin Landau. And so I had to get in a taxi and go to his hotel, so I went to a liquor store and I bought a bottle of bourbon. I started drinking the bourbon on the way to just sort of calm my nerves. And for those of you who know how much I like to eat, I ordered for dinner consomme. So it was the only thing I could eat. And so when he showed up the next day, so I went to bed, and I had a little more bourbon, and I thought, I'm the fucking director. I'm not gonna let this guy push me around. I'm the fucking director. So when I woke up the next morning, I got up and I said, I'm the fucking director. I'm not gonna let this guy push me around. And well, there's a lot of stories that I could probably stand here for about the next 15 minutes and tell you Jack Palance stories. But he was a tough guy. I mean, if you look at him, he was kind of like the way he was, but he was a fair person. He acted a lot tougher than he actually was, but he was actually a nice guy. And there were a few points when I was like very low, things were going really, really, really bad, and he kind of did some little things that were very nice. I mean, he wouldn't come over and say, "Hey, Jack, good job," but he, in his own little way, he would sort of let you know. So I had great respect, and actually, the very first scene that I did was the scene where he meets Dwight Schultz, and they're walking, talking. And he says, "None of us are crazy. We're all on vacation," and he had told me that he couldn't do the scene. I mean, that was what he was supposed to do that day, and he said, well, I can't possibly do the scene. Nobody told me. It's too much dialogue. I have a hard time memorizing dialogue, so I can't do that scene today. And I said, well, Jack, this is the only day that we have to shoot this, so we're going to have to do it. I'm sorry, but we have to do it. We have no choice. But, I'll break it up into little pieces. We'll have cue cards and all of that kind of stuff. And so I set up this long piece of track so that we could shoot the scene, and he came out and he did it, and I don't know what you thought, but I watched him do it, and I said, holy shit, this guy's fantastic. It was so good, because I'd written this, and to hear somebody take your words and make them so good, I was just in awe. So I think we did 2 takes, perfect, both takes perfect, and I said, Jack, man, that was so good. You were so good. I can't believe it. And he looked at me and said, you're full of shit, and walked away. But that was his way of saying thank you.
Nice way. More questions. Kävin.
Yeah, so thank you for this movie. It was really great.
Thank you.
Thank you. The previous movies that have been screened have had some really interesting subtext to them, and you also hinted at that there's more to the story in this movie than is the story. So what's the story behind the story, or in the story?
Well, let me. let me ask you. I mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I mean, what do you think the movie's really about?
Yeah, well, I kind of felt that there's a lot of like, there's this big question that, you know, who's actually crazy, and aren't we all kind of crazy?
Right.
And,
Yeah.
you know,
That's exactly
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So it actually worked. Yeah. I mean that was exactly what I was saying. You know, is society crazy? You know, the crazy people come out and they just fit right in. They're no different from anybody. And even, I mean, I have to say one of my favorite scenes that I've done is that very final scene in the disco with the girl. I mean, she was a terrific actress, and he was just so great in that scene, and just that idea that you know, she thinks he's just the coolest guy in the world because he's kind of crazy. You know, watching this movie Murder on the Front Row yesterday, you know, with all these you know, thrasher metal people, and you know, part of that was to just be crazy, you know. So there's this really thin line, and that's kind of the thing that I was playing around with. So I was trying to say more than just, you know, let's kill campers in a summer camp. You know?
More questions? Yes, Lou, please.
I was just going to bring up the final scene because it's my favorite scene. But was that always the ending? Did you always had that
Oh
as the
yeah,
thought?
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's a kind of an existential ending, you know. Yeah. Because there's a lot of irony. Like, I mean, there's always this question of, like, you know, what saves the people, how they figure it out. You know, how do you get rid of Godzilla or you know. So, like, you know, what saves the family? He's about to kill them when he realizes, oh, I guess they were right all along. I guess I was crazy. You know, you know, now that I realize that the guy actually isn't dead, okay, I guess I have to leave. Sorry, you know. So I mean, there's this irony, and also there's a, I mean, Palance is so good that you have such a sense of sympathy for him that, I mean, you almost feel bad for him in a way, you know. You know, it's you know, it's just such a treat and an honor to work with artists of that caliber. There was another thing that I should probably say. I think I had mentioned to what somebody, but also on that same day when he said that he couldn't do the dialogue scene, it was what's called a split day. So you shoot half during the daylight and half at night. So at night there's a scene where they escape from the mental hospital and they steal the car, and he's supposed to kill the guy and take his car. And so in addition to Jack saying to me, I can't do the dialogue scene during the day, he also said, oh, and the scene where I murder the guy at night when we take the car, he said, I don't want to do that because I don't believe in violence. So I said, you know what, Jack? Let's not talk about that right now. Let's talk about, I'm going to just leave you alone and you can work on the dialogue scene. And we can talk again after it gets dark. So after we shot the scene, and actually what I realized about him, which is something that a very experienced director told me, he said, all actors are scared. And this stupid little movie, you know, with this guy who had never directed anything, this shitty little company called New Line Cinema, this low-budget movie shooting in New Jersey, he was a little nervous, you know, about how he was going to do this character. And I think that when he did it, and I said, hey man, you were great, and he knew he was great, that he felt relieved. So afterwards, I went back to his room, and he was a little bit nicer to me, and he's an opera fan. He loves opera, and I know a little bit about opera, so we could talk a little bit about that. And I said, okay, Jack, so about the scene tonight, I said, he said, well, I really don't want to kill the guy. And I said, well, Jack, I usually like to talk in terms of character and all this stuff, but you know, it is in the script that your character kills this guy. And he says, why? And I said, well, we need to know you're capable of violence. And so he turns to me with his face and he says, "They'll know." And he was right? You look at him and you know he's capable of, right? I mean, he embodies it, you know? So, and it was one of the great lessons I learned as a director. You know, you don't have to see him kill somebody to know that he's capable of violence. So I said, well, okay, well, somebody's got to kill him. And he said, well, have the fat guy do it. So I said, all right. I said, okay, Erlen, you're going to kill the guy. And that's how we did it.
At that point, would you have figured that both Jack and Martin Landau are going to eventually end up winning the Academy Award?
Well, it's actually interesting because I have a photograph. Myself, Landau, Talents, Bob Shea, and the fat guy, Erland, who actually, you know, he looks like a big, and he was playing a very stupid guy, but he actually went to MIT. I think he has like a genius IQ. He was an Olympic wrestler and an opera singer. I heard him perform The Marriage of Figaro. He played Figaro. I mean, he was this amazing human being. And he was so big, he had a hand. It was like a baseball mitt. You shook your hand and your hand disappeared inside of his hand. He was so big. But of the 5 people in that picture, Landau won the Academy Award, Palance won the Academy Award, and Bob Shea got an Academy Award for Lord of the Rings, for producing Lord of the Rings. I was planning to get one myself, and you know, who knows? Maybe make another movie.
There's still time.
There's still time, but anyway, yeah. Well, they both deserved it. I mean, they both had amazing careers. You know, and it was an honor to work with those people. It's kind of interesting because I also worked with another guy. There's an Alfred Hitchcock movie called Saboteur. He did a film called Sabotage in the UK, and he did a film called Saboteur in America, and it ends up on the top of the Statue of Liberty. It's very similar to the scene on Mount Rushmore in North by Northwest, but in this case, the villain is hanging. They have a big fight on the top of the torch of the Statue of Liberty, and I worked with the guy who fell off the Statue of Liberty, and then I also worked with Martin Landau, who fell off of Mount Rushmore. So. The guy who fell off of the Statue of Liberty used to play tennis with Charlie Chaplin, so I felt like I was one step removed from Charlie Chaplin.
In literal terms, you were. You said before and also on previous nights that the original plan for you was not to direct horror. How do you feel about that some of your best recognized work is within the realms of horror? Not the most usual kind, definitely not for Alone in the Dark, but is this something that, looking back to everything and your whole career, is it something that you feel mixed feelings about?
I have mixed feelings. I mean, I meet people and sometimes they'll say, well, what do you do? And I say, oh, I'm in the film business. And they say, oh, well, have you done anything we've ever heard of? And I don't like to say, well, I directed Nightmare on Elm Street 2, you know. It's just like, you know, I would like to say that I wish that everybody knew about The Hidden, or I wish that everybody knew about Alone in the Dark. I say, I directed The Hidden, and everybody, oh, great, you know. But you know, everybody knows about Elm Street, if they've seen it or not, you know. And so, like I said, you know, I always thought that I would be directing The Painted Bird, you know, instead of this. But in a way, I'm kind of suited to doing these films because I have these sort of, you know, the films are transgressive in a way, and I'm transgressive in a way. You know, I've always like, you know, if you know, I always marched to a different drummer. I always sort of stood out. I always tried to do, you know, if everybody was doing this, I tried to do that. And so, you know, in a way, it kind of suits my personality. I mean, as I said the other night, I also get to kill the people I don't like in the movies. and also cinematically, you know, one of the things about the genre films is that they really do use cinema to tell the story. You know, if you look at a lot of the comedies that are shot now, they're just basically filming people improvising, and then they cut it together in an editing room. There's not much visual comedy, you know, that's done using cinema. You know, it's just they're recording people being funny. Whereas in the genre films, you actually use cinema to tell the story. You know, and you can do lots of interesting things. And you know, kind of inspired by Hitchcock, you know, I've always had, you know, certain sequences that I kind of like, you know, are going to be special sequences that I hope are going to be interesting or kind of stand out, you know. So it kind of suits me, and also I love the fans. I mean, you know, fans of the horror genre are the greatest fans there are. You know, people just love it, and they come out, and you know, I go to some of these conventions or hear and people tell me, you know, how much the films have meant to them. And honestly, the reason that I wanted to make films was not to get rich, not to get laid. The reason I wanted to make films was I love films. And they're films that when I watch them, I just, you know, I just feel great. And so I wanted to be able to make some films that people would feel that way about something that I made. And so I've been lucky that it's actually happened, you know, and all of you are here, and hopefully a lot of you enjoyed the film. So that's the greatest thing for me. And here I am in Helsinki, which I wouldn't be if I hadn't done it. So it's worked out pretty well.
It's worked out marvelously. Final question, is there something still that you're planning to do or would like to do in terms of filmmaking?
Well, I have a vampire movie. I haven't done a movie the last movie I did was in 2004, and the reason for that was that I was offered the opportunity to start a film program at a university, and it sort of came at a time when that seemed like it might be a good idea. And so I spent 14 years doing that, and you know, basically I had no idea how to start a film program at a university because I'd never taken a film course. So you know, it took me about 10 years to figure it all out, and actually to think about why I did a lot of the things that I did. I mean, it's kind of interesting because I went back and I hadn't seen The Hidden in a long time, and I was teaching, and then I went back and I watched it, and I said, oh wow, you actually did all the things that you're telling the students to do correctly, you know. But I left the university a couple years ago, and I'm hoping to get back into film. So I've got a vampire movie that I'm really excited about doing. And I mean, interestingly enough, you know, here's what may be my next film. It's a vampire movie, but you know, like my movies, and certainly like any good vampire movie, they're always about more than vampires, you know. And this is about a lot more than vampires. And so some people in Canada are raising the money right now, and I don't know whether they will or not. It'll be relatively low budget, but I've got pretty interesting cast, and maybe I'll come back to Helsinki and show the movie here, I hope.
That's something that we would love. Thank you, Jack. Thank you so much for being here.